All right, we are at the top of the hour. We are so excited that you could make time to be here tonight. And our conversation tonight is on showing up as a whole leader. I hope you can see what's on the screen. And tonight, Yawa is going to lead us on a conversation on the one shift that closes the gap between where you are and where you belong. And I know all of us have a dream and a desire and a longing of where we know we belong. And especially as we think about our leadership capacity. And this is a leadership lab. This is a safe space for you, who is a woman who is aspiring, to rise to prominence, to show all the greatness that you have to the world, because the world is waiting. And we are glad to have this conversation with you. And this is not the only thing happening. We have a series of events coming up for those of us in Nairobi and those of us who are in every place in Africa, because we are having a combined meeting tonight. And of course, also towards building up towards the events that we'll be having in April. And Yawa is going to catch us up on that as well. And so we invite you, we welcome you, we celebrate you. Can you give me a thumbs up and fireworks and love hearts? If you're here and you're ready for tonight, you're excited to be here. You have shown up. That is the greatest thing you did tonight. You showed up. You have shown up. Yeah, I can see you. I can see you. I can see you, Faith. I see Joy. Yeah, I can see even the fireworks. Yeah, we have shown up. And just being here tonight, that is the greatest thing that we are doing this year, to show up for ourselves and to just, it's just putting your hand up and saying, I am ready for prominence. I am ready for every good thing that is lined up for me in my life, in my destiny, the things that I've been called to do. And we are your hosts tonight. This is Paps Wanyugi on the screen right now, and I am the founder of Reconfidence Solutions, and I'm certified as a wellness and confidence coach. I help professionals to get their ball back, and of course, I work with corporates and families in Africa. And then we have Yawa. Yawa is not new to us. In 2024, we had this amazing standout executive ladies event that we had, and 67 ladies showed up. And then last year, there was still another event that showed up on rising, to prominence. And there was also another 76 women who showed up in the room when you had it at Serena. And then tonight we are here, and not only tonight, we have an amazing day event lined up for you in April. And together with that, we actually have a residential retreat. And we're going to fill you in on that, and so many amazing opportunities for mentorship for you to be part of this hub and to get mentorship even beyond those two events. And so I am going to invite Yawa up. And before that, on the next slide, I want us to first of all share, because remember, this night is about you. It is not about me and Yawa. We are just holding this space, but it's about you and all the greatness that lives within you that we are looking forward to see emerge, and for you to rise up to the prominence and the excellence, and of course into these spaces, that God is calling us to. And of course, Yawa will unpack for us the journey we've had and the journey that we have ahead of us. And so what does it mean for you to show up as a whole leader? So when you think about yourself as a whole leader, what does it mean for you to show up? Feeling whole. What does it look like for you when you're whole? What will happen? And who will you be? What are some of the movements that will happen in your space? What are some of the impact you're looking forward to? What does it mean for you to show up as a whole leader? And of course, we are happy to allow a few of us to unmute and share. And then, of course, the rest of us can keep on sharing on the chat. We'll be looking on the chat box to also see what's happening there. What does it mean for you to show up as a whole leader? And before we answer this question, I want us to do a reflection together. And so we're just going to pause and first of all, think about it. Hold space for yourself first, even before we show up for the conversation tonight. And so I want us to just close our eyes. I hope you're in a place where you're safe enough to do this. If you're driving, please don't close your eyes. And of course, if you're also moving around and you're not feeling so safe and settled, if you're around people, probably it may not be practical. But if you're in a place where probably you have zoned in and you're alone and you're feeling space, maybe you're in your car, you're in your house, you're in your room, and you're able to do this reflection, it will also be a very powerful way to unpack tonight. So I want us to just close our eyes. Just close your eyes, and I want you to reflect on your leadership journey so far. Where did you start? What was your first opportunity to lead? Who are you when you started out? Think about yourself, even in leadership roles you had before, probably even your professional life. Some of us were prefects in school. Some of us had opportunities to lead in our families. Just think about your whole journey, your leadership journey, and the different milestones you've grown through, the different spaces you've showed up. What are some of the things you are proud of yourself in terms of achievements you've had, bold moves you've taken, risks that you've also taken? Just think about your journey and how it has been. Looking back, how has your journey been as a leader? What are some of the things you're celebrating? And then also think about the obstacles you've experienced in your leadership journey. Some of us, probably even as you've shown up here tonight, maybe there are streaks of discouragement in your journey where things have not gone the way you had hoped for. Doors did not open up in the direction you had thought was meant for you. Think about also our disappointments as leaders, our setbacks, probably even sometimes bits of failure here and there. Think about your whole leadership space in terms of your home front and your work front and your vocation front, where you're just passionate to volunteer and to do stuff to change the world, in places where you're just contributing, to give to people who will never give back to you. Think of all those places in your life. And I just want you to think about this question. What does it mean to show up as a whole leader in the next season of your life? And so as you look back at the seasons that have passed, celebrating the achievements and still holding space for the things that were a bit challenging. And then looking forward to all the hopes, the dreams, the aspirations you have, the ambitions that lie ahead of you, the goals you've set for this year and the years to come. What does it mean for you to show up as a whole leader? And I hope you have your notebook, you have your journal, probably even your phone if it has a note side. Can you journal a bit and just write, what does it mean for me to show up as a whole leader? Just make a few sentences, just consciously making a decision and moving yourself forward on this. There's someone who is asking a question. Will we get the presentation outline after? Yes, we will. And of course, we'll also have a recording for those of us who have signed up. I hope everyone signed up on the Zoom link that was provided so that we have your contact and we'll get back to you. As well as those who also signed up on the Google form, we'll make sure we get this out to you. So yes. What does it mean for you to show up as a whole leader? So just take a minute, journal a bit before we invite you up, and feel free to also share. You can share on the chat once you're done journaling. So 30 seconds. What does it mean for you to show up as a whole leader? What does wholeness mean to you? How will you feel if you're whole? What will you achieve from this place of wholeness? How will you show up? So think about it from all those dimensions. All right, before we invite Yawa up, I would love to give an opportunity to a lady or two to share. And of course, the rest of us keep on sharing, blast the chat as well. What does it mean for you to show up as a whole leader? You can even use one word that sounds like wholeness to you, or probably a statement, a feeling that is wholeness to you. What does it mean for you to show up as a whole leader? So anyone who wants to go, the floor is yours. Yes, I can see Faith Ngala, your hand is up. Please go for it. We are so glad you're opening the floor for us. The rest of us, let's head to the chat and get it going. Faith Karibu, please.
Thank you.
Step up and share. What does it mean for you to show up as a whole leader? Go ahead.
For me, showing up as a whole leader means that I show up in a way that feels authentic and true to myself, true to my values, emotions, and making sure that my actions actually match with what and who I say I am. So not having to shrink myself or pretending just to fit in the room.
Wow, wow. Those are many powerful words there. And I want us to celebrate each other. That is also a beautiful culture for women who are standing out together. So we can just give her some celebration, some love hearts and everything. Just say, well done, Faith. We agree with you. We celebrate you as you take up that space of being a whole leader, authentic and confidence and showing up fully, not holding herself back in any way. Yeah, we celebrate you. Thanks for sharing with us. Yes, see all those love hearts and celebrations for you. Faith, we are so glad you're here tonight. Who else is going on the mic? Yeah, and I can see we are also on the chat. So Carol has said confidence with an exclamation mark. That is how she's showing up as a whole leader in this season. And Akofa Dakwa, we also celebrate you for consistency. That is how whole leader, showing up as a whole leader means to you. We celebrate you as well, ladies. Let's keep going. Who else is going on the mic to share? And keep the chat also going. Anyone ready to share as well? Anybody else before we invite Yawa up? Anybody else? And on the chat as well, one word that defines how you'll show up as a whole leader in this season and this year and the years to come. Oh, I can see we are still going on. Naomi Waicha is saying empathy and authenticity. That is powerful as well. Can you see these words? These words are full of life. And of course, they're also full of that aspect of wholeness in terms of different areas of our lives. Hazel Kusa is saying mental agility. Absolutely. We would also want that. And if you see something that you like on the chat, you also like it, and you're like, yeah, I want this too. I want this too. Sometimes we spark each other on the things that we desire and the things that resonate with us. And so I want to invite Yawa for the interest of time because we want to unpack this evening and make it about you. And we are so glad you showed up here. I can see 27 of us already in the room, and I know others are on the way coming. We are so glad you could make time to be here tonight. Patience has also shared hers and trustworthy. That is how she want to show up as a whole leader in this season. And then Frimpoma, I hope I said it well, Frimpoma Aga, bringing others along. That is so powerful. Not rising alone. You want to bring everyone along. We celebrate you as well. And then Joy Getao, harnessing humility. Wow, that is also a powerful perspective on being a whole leader. We celebrate all this. Please keep sharing on the chat. I'm sure Yawa will also take it up. Yawa Karibu, we are so glad you could put this together and so glad to be able to partner together. Yawa is such an amazing mentor, a trailblazing woman on leadership, especially in the executive roles. And I'm sure you'll really enjoy the treat she's prepared for us tonight. Welcome, Yawa.
Thank you. Thank you so, so much. Pabs, it's such a blessing to be connected to you, a blessing to partner with you to serve more women. My name is Yawa Hansen-Quao. For those of you I've not had the opportunity to meet yet, I am from Ghana, but I might be what you may consider a multicultural African. Formative years of my life were spent in the US, and I just feel grateful for the opportunity to serve women over the past nearly 2 decades of my life. I spent a lot of time in my background focused in different sectors. I worked in tourism, and then very soon after spending about 3 or 4 years in the tourism and destination management industry, I got to see all of West Africa through the company that I was with. And every country I would go to, I felt like God was putting on my heart, check out the needs of these women, look at what's happening. And I felt called and stirred. So for me, this is my element. This is where I think God has called me to serve. And it's just such an honor to see the work expand beyond just Ghana to other parts of the continent. And through partnership with PAPS and Reconfidence Africa, we've had quite a journey over the past 3 years. This is the third year that we're doing work supporting women in Kenya. So welcome to tonight's Leadership Lab. Our topic tonight is how do we show up as a whole leader? And we chose this topic because we really, in the build up to this year's Standout Women's Leadership Program, we recognize that there are so many things competing for our attention, competing for our sense of who we are. And we really wanted this to be a leadership lab that grounds us in identity. We do plan to host 2 more of these types of leadership labs to curate some space for women who are on the path to their unfolding success story, to really pause, reflect, and do the inner work that's really necessary. I know a lot of us grow up doing hard work, HARD, but true transformation starts when we start doing the heart work, HEART. Can you put that in the chat box? I will stop hard work and welcome heart work. Can you put that in the chat for me? That's commitment number 1 I want out of all of us today. Because wholeness comes when your perspectives shift. And in today's session, I want to lead you through some shifts that I think all of us might need to consider making in order to become the bolder, bigger, braver version of us that I know we need to be. So for a lot of us, we're in this space where we've probably been working at our careers for a few years. Maybe you've been promoted, you're at some sort of senior leadership role. You feel excited to be there, but yet something still feels missing and incomplete. I know when Paps was asking all of us to describe our sense of what wholeness is, each of us brought it from different angles. Someone said confidence, someone said resilience, someone said, it's about lifting others with them. And that proves this point. Each of us, as we advance and as we evolve, we become attuned to aspects that seem like they are missing. Sometimes we feel stagnant and stuck, invisible, frustrated. Sometimes we realize that we have all of this talent, but it's not reaching the people that we feel called to serve. I know that frustration. I used to work in an environment where I felt like there was so much more I was capable of. But on the other hand, there were so many people who were already applauding me, impressed by where I had arrived, and couldn't see a bigger version for me. How many of you can identify that? Let me know in the chat box. People are already satisfied with what you've become, who you are now. And any attempt that you make towards challenging yourself to do something bigger is usually met with some ridicule or people talking you out of it. A lot of us are on the verge of change. We know that there's so much more that we are meant for. And yet there's this ceiling that we sometimes meet each time. And so in today's session, I really want us to look at some of the shifts that we might need to make. And each of us is at different stages of our journey. So the shift that I need to make may be very different from the shift that you need to make. And the goal of this is to get you to start uh, digging deeper, to do the heart work, to see where you're at and what shifts that you might need to make in order to move yourself forward. Because the truth is, over the past 7 years that I've been working directly with women in leadership as an executive coach, as a strategist, helping them figure out the plan from point A to point B, I realize that it's not for lack of technical ability that a lot of us are stagnant. It's not for lack of being smart. In fact, I have a few family members and friends and extended family people who had people, loved ones graduating from our universities here in Ghana over the past few weeks. And every year, thousands of people are coming out of our universities. And if you look closely, a lot of those graduates are women. And there's an interesting thing that happens. Like so many of us graduate out of college with great expectation, and then we get into the world and life happens. Can you put that in the chat box? Life happens. As some of my Gen Z friends like to say to me, life is lifing. Oh my, how many of you has life lifed? Like you started off with this ambition for something, you had your eye on a specific role, a specific accomplishment, and life started lifing. You became a mother, and then you put your dreams on the back burner, or you got married and things didn't work out, and your heart is reeling from a heartbreak of a divorce that you didn't anticipate. Maybe you started life and then you got hit by some sort of medical issue or drama. And so the point of this is to lay a foundation that I know where a lot of us are at. That you're capable, you have skills, you probably have a track record already. However, you know that there are some missing pieces. And that's what I want to speak to tonight. Many of the women that I've coached and trained, many of the women who've come through our standout women's leadership experience recognize these gaps and have needed to welcome these same shifts. What I notice is that it's not that we have talent problems, it's that often we have strategy problems. We're unable to take the totality of who we are, the assets that we possess, the skills, the knowledge, the connections, the resources, and pull them together in a way that moves us forward. So it seems like there are three gaps that many of us are facing that affects our ability to show up as full, whole leaders. And that first gap is a visibility gap. The visibility for this is who I am, this is the value I bring to the world. I know a lot of us were conditioned to work in secret. A lot of us were conditioned, and I grew up in faith communities. So as a strong Christian in family, you do your good in private. Your right hand should not know what your left hand is doing. You don't talk about who you are and what you do. Don't. It's distasteful. And we live in a world where, especially when you wear the gender of woman, sometimes your attempts at self-promotion may be taken poorly as compared to our male counterparts. But a lot of us are not showing up in wholeness because oftentimes no one knows the value we carry. There's an ad that used to run here in Ghana for years on radio, and it asked a simple question. It says, doing business without advertising is like working in the dark. You know what you're doing, but nobody else does. And that ad always plays in my head when I think about this issue of visibility. For a lot of us, we know what we're doing. We know the value we're creating. We know it. We live it. And we've believed the lie that if we put our heads down and just keep doing the work, people will notice and we will be rewarded. Regrettably, those days are over. And a lot of us are no longer winning in the world of work. We're not winning even in our marriages. As a side note, a few weeks ago, I kicked off a new module in my coaching program, and we're talking about marriage. And one of the things that came up, a few weeks ago in one of our sessions was that oftentimes the same strategies that help us to win in the world of work can help us to win at home. That colleague or coworker that we all know who is not as competent as we are, who doesn't seem to have a good sense of the technical ability, but keeps rising and being promoted above us, we know that we work harder than them. We know that we create more value than them, but often they close the visibility gap more strongly than we do. And so people are unable to perceive us for the full package that we are because we do business in the dark. Can you put that in the chat box, please? I will stop doing business in the dark. Please put that in the chat box and make it a commitment. Stop doing business in the dark. Stop shining. And as the more I've studied Bible, as a good believer, I'm now realizing that it was there all along. The scriptures teach us that you do not light a candle and hide it under a bushel. And a lot of us are bushelizing our light. It's supposed to shine. The scripture teaches that a city that is built on a hill cannot be hidden. And we're hiding ourselves, and we think it's modesty, we think it's humility, we think it's proper. So, one of the things that we love to teach and help women strategize around through our Standout Women's Leadership Experience and the full program is how do you do tasteful self-promotion? How do you own the visibility and close the gap so that you can be perceived in the fullness of the value that you carry? How do you stop doing business in the dark? The second gap that we notice, and I've seen it up front and I've experienced it firsthand, is also the positioning gap. How do you differentiate yourself from the market or in the marketplace? And that's really where the name Stand Out originated from. Because oftentimes we know that we've got technical ability that gets us through the door, but what is your unique selling point and your differentiating value that you need to amplify, own, possess, and move the conversation away from the same old, and create and chart a new path? A lot of us in our work, in our homes, we're facing the same challenges. A lot of times our spouses are able to dismiss us and feel like they get no value of us because we do our work in the dark. My marriage has become much more loving when I stopped sweeping conversations under the rug. I don't know about you, but even in my work and in my marriage, I saw that I was trying to play the role of someone who was just doing the work in quiet and not speaking and talking about the value that I create. And some of those strategies that have worked well in the world of work, I see are working well even in my marital relationship, where oftentimes familiarity can make you forget the value that your spouse offers you. So for me, when you ask me what holistic leadership looks like, it's being able to recognize patterns, spot the gaps, close them, and strategize around them. Whether that gap is at home or the office, whether that gap is in the relationships that you are pursuing with others, like each of us knows that feeling of having success in the workplace, but having pain at home, or having pain, joy at home, but having no, clear pathway forward in our world of work. And I believe that if we get strategic, and if we identify the gaps, we can close them and be able to succeed at what we've been called to do.
And they said Monday will be 50.
Big piece of what we really like working with women to identify is also the confidence gap. I don't know about you, but I grew up in an environment where I was told the more quiet I am, the better. I was applauded for all the times I swallowed. One of the things my father used to say to us when we were growing up was, speak when you are angry and you will make the best speech that you will ever regret. So I grew up, in an environment where I was constantly avoiding conflict, trying to keep the peace, trying to look respectable, and oftentimes wouldn't deal with some of the things that were necessary to deal with in order to move forward. So in the confidence gap, we realize that a lot of us hold back in rooms where we should be sharing, where our voice should be heard. We're just happy to be in the door. I don't know how many of you can identify that with that in the chat box. I remember when I was in my actually my late 20s, I was invited to join an international board, and that board had a lot of famous people on it. The Crown Prince of Norway was on that board of directors. The chair of a big organization, and all of the feeling, all of the things I was feeling was the feeling of uh, inadequacy, the feeling that I had become someone who, was in the room, but I didn't know what I had to offer. So I had a confidence gap that needed to be closed. I needed to be able to allow myself the space to acknowledge that I was invited into this room because of the value that I have. And I needed to own the space and not, not feel like they were doing me a favor by having me there. I don't know about you, but so many of us as women often fall into the trap where we think that the honor is in the invitation, but the true honor is in the contribution. Can you write that in the chat box for me? The honor is not in the invitation. The honor is in the contribution. We're supposed to be in rooms where strategic decisions are made, and we're supposed to contribute. We're supposed to contribute, not just take nice pictures. We're supposed to contribute, not just take a selfie and say I was there. We're supposed to show the world that we are contributing members. And this is really a result of the confidence gap. We hold back in rooms where our voice has even been invited. And oftentimes we second guess ourselves in those spaces. There's this really great example. The former German Chancellor, Angela Merkel, and the former IMF, International Monetary Fund president, used to have a very strong friendship. And these were two high-powered women who realized this confidence gap still existed. That when one was going to give a big speech or a big presentation, they would call each other and just, really help each other prepare because they wanted to make sure that since they were one of the few European women in leadership that were visible, that they made the most of every opportunity to be in the space. So these are the three gaps that I've recognized that I want to speak to today. Because for some of us, it's the visibility gap. Let me know, which gap do you see you're affecting your life the most? Which gap do you find is affecting your life the most? Let me know in the chat box. Because oftentimes we may be the most qualified person in the room, and yet we still feel invisible. That's what was happening to me on that board that I was on. I felt I was too young. I felt I was the only African, the only Black person. I felt like there's nothing I could say to top off what's been said by these very senior, distinguished, exposed people. But do you know the truth? The more I got to know these leaders, the more I realized that I actually have a lot to offer. And in fact, they need to be consulting me because when I was able to close that confidence gap, become assured that I belonged in that room, I became such a valuable contributor to that board of directors. I remember when I stepped down, my term ended on that board. I received such a wonderful commendation and was just overjoyed by the contribution that I was able to make. Could it be that you are being prepared to contribute at a higher level, but you are being so distracted by your own self-doubt? Could it be that you have what it takes and you are worthy of being in the rooms that you've been assigned to? And instead of expending the energy on self-doubt, it's time to get prepared. How do you make the most so that you can be a contributor, not just someone who's excited to have been invited? I remember a few years ago, I was on a call with my executive coach, and she had seen a post that I had written on, I think it was LinkedIn or Facebook, I can't even remember. But she said, it was an interesting choice of words that you used when you made this post. And I had posted about some very remarkable person that I had met in my travels and how an honor it was for me to have met them. And in that session, she asked me to understand a different point of view. Like, what an honor it was for them to have met you. Like, actually, you're playing yourself down. And almost as if she was speaking prophetically, I go online a few hours later and I see that this person that I had the breakfast meeting with had posted wonderful things about me. She posted a photo that we took together, and then she posted that she was so glad to see me. This woman is dynamic and all of that. And she said, "Isn't it interesting that you are fawning over someone who actually should be fawning over you?" This happens to the best of us. Sometimes we're so shrouded by how we see others excellent that we forget our own value. And so I want to now shift gears into how do we close these gaps, that visibility gap, that strategy gap, the gap in confidence, and what do we do about it? Because the truth is, a lot of times we go wrong because we believe that the gap between where we are and where we should be is only about talent. And so some of us are forever getting a new qualification, going back to school, going back to get another piece of paper. Can I have some witnesses in the chat box? Every year you're taking a new course. You're trying to get a new something. You feel like the gap can only be filled by a new qualification, a new piece of paper. This paper will legitimize me, and then I will be confident. Let me tell you something, my friend. For some of you, this may be your salvation. The truth is, you might be exactly where you need to be, and you just, like I did, need to shift perspective. Sometimes it's just a visibility problem, a positioning problem, a strategy problem. In the early 2022 or so, end of 2021 to 2022, I was feeling very discouraged. I felt like I had so much to offer. I felt like, I just was not, moving in the direction I wanted to with my career. And when I invested in my executive coaching and did a few other leadership programs and things like that, I realized that the shift that I needed to make was internal, that I was actually a prize, but I was underselling. I was not letting people know the value I could create for them. So the journey was me needing to be reintroduced to me. So oftentimes we can misdiagnose. Now, for those of you who probably have a medical background, sometimes going to a hospital with a problem can end you up dead or severely, you know, maimed or harmed if you are misdiagnosed. And my contention is that a lot of us are misdiagnosing what we actually need to move into the next level. I think it's time that we stop working harder and start closing these three gaps. I do not recommend that you sign up for another academic course until you've worked on these three areas of gaps. For many of us as professional women trying to manage a career in addition to other roles, it is not uncommon that we feel inadequate, we feel stretched, we feel like there's something missing. But the antidote to that isn't necessarily more or harder work. It is more tactical, more strategic visibility. So the old belief is that if I just deliver excellent results, the right people will find me. But I really want you to now start imbibing a different belief that visibility isn't vanity, it's strategy. That often you being able to rise isn't really a function of your talent. And AI is proving to us that it's not even what you know anymore. What you don't know, you can know now because of these new tools. And people are no longer buying information, they're buying transformation. They're buying a real tangible value addition. And the sooner we start sharpening our ability to be value minded, the more likely we can show up in fullness and wholeness everywhere we go. So, this is the shift that we need to make in our visibility. The second shift is that confidence shift that I talked about. That a lot of times we feel unworthy. Maybe we were socialized when we were younger. I know my parents used to talk to us all the time. As for us, we are poor people. When you go to school, don't hang out with rich people because if they get in trouble, they can be rescued, but you can never be rescued. And I realized that I am in my 40s and still dealing with that wrong programming. In fact, my business coach was saying, yeah, well, where does this come from? You have everything. You have what? But it's that script that asks for we are this people. I am not in the category of people who have means. And I saw that it became a self-fulfilling prophecy in the early days of my business. So I share that we honestly sometimes don't need more confidence. Sometimes we need a different room. What environment are you in? Who are you listening to on a regular basis? Sometimes, if you're constantly around people who are giving you the voice of, people like you don't do well here, no one your skin color has ever done it. Um, I have a mentor who likes to tell me, she said, when someone says I can't, she says, watch me. And I love it. So sometimes under my breath, when someone says something is impossible, I just say that to myself, watch me do it. Watch me win. Watch me because I refuse to stop. Maybe you need a new set of friends. Maybe you need a new network. And quite honestly, and I say this with love, if you are the one that everyone celebrates in your friends group, may I suggest that you might be in the wrong friend group? If all of the people that you are around, you have more money and more success, then maybe you're in the wrong group. You need to be around people that force you, challenge you to stretch, to explore whether or not this is the best that can potentially come out of you. You need to get around people that force you to see a different way. And honestly, this is where a lot of us choke. We want to take everybody with us, the people we grew up with, the people we went to school with. We want to take all of our family members with us, but there's a level of wholeness and success that isn't for everybody. And that may mean you have to be comfortable with being disliked. And this, my friend, has been one of my major struggles. I had to recognize that the confidence was there, but I was just diluting the confidence with lots of naysaying, lots of negativity. People who were always finding 100 reasons why my ideas wouldn't work. People who were constantly, making me feel like this was too much too fast, right? But now I want to be around expansive people. So that's why I pay for coaching. That's why I paid the price to be in environments where I'm hearing big ideas, hearing big financial figures. I constantly am buying books, yet my bookshelf is just one of many in my home. The bookshelf behind me is just one of many in my home, where I constantly want to be reminded that other women have faced all of the things that I faced and worse and still made it. Because if you do not change rooms, you might constantly be looking for the next inspirational conference, constantly needing to be on the phone call for a pep talk from a girlfriend, constantly needing, inspiration, motivation. And quite frankly, this is where a lot of us are dissipating our energy. Can you write this in the chat box? I don't need more confidence. I need a different environment. You need to be in a new room. And I don't know what environment you may need to seek this year. For me, I'm working with a business coach who is just stretching me to think differently about how I structure my business, about what I charge and what I do and how I do it, stretching me to think because I don't have that naturally from my family. I don't necessarily have that from my immediate friend group. I don't necessarily have that in my church community. Maybe what you don't need is more confidence. You need an environment where it's impossible for you to be less than you are. Ooh, I think I got to say that again. You need to be in an environment where it feels and becomes hard to become less than you are. And this, my friend, is where the rubber meets the road. I like to say to my coaching community that this is where you put on your big girl panties and say, I have walked around this mountain for too many years and I don't like what I see. And that's why, to me, wholeness is about pattern recognition. Let me see the patterns in my life. And let me stop coddling myself that I do what I like and shift from from doing what I like to doing what's required. What is required for me to get the prize? What is required for me to enter that room? What is required for me to be in that environment? Because until that happens, my friends, nothing shifts. And the last but most important shift is really the shift that is necessitated by the time that we're in. A lot of us, are reeling from what AI is able to do. I don't know about you, but my husband was sitting me down and showing me some new things on this AI tool that he's using for his work. And the AI did some strategy work for him, and he sees that he can potentially lay off like 15 members of his team if he just relies on the tools moving forward. They had two big issues with some client work. And when he got involved, he saw that it was because two or three team members were not doing what they were supposed to do. And he said, yeah, well, I just went to the AI. I said, this is the issue. This is the last report. This is a gap. Show me, assume the role of this and show me what to do. And the thing did it in minutes, what he pays someone a salary to do. This right here is most dangerous for us as women. who occupy spaces in organizations with little visibility, low value creation or perceived value, and we don't often create space to retool. I don't know about you, but my life sometimes centers around my family, my kids. I go here, and but I have learned that our markets are constantly moving, and they're moving at a faster speed than they have ever moved. And those of us who will win will be those of us who can learn quickly. And the changes in technology that are reshaping our industry means that wholeness also looks like adaptability. Can you put that in the chat box? Wholeness is a function now. Modern day wholeness will be a function of adaptability, of being able to relearn, to not hold anything, like this is how I've done it, this is how it's always been, to be able to see around the corner and see what's coming and be able to adapt quickly will be the lifeblood of those who thrive in the season. And so I know I might be painting a very bleak picture for some of us, but I'm challenging you to elevate how you are seeing you in this moment. And I'm inviting you to close the gaps that may exist, because the cost of waiting to learn or waiting to get the help that you need, like right now, I was sharing, I just came back home from about 2 weeks of trainings up north in Ghana for a client. And we were doing these trainings in different cities. And one of the sessions that I was doing, I was telling them that, look, I'm here coaching you, but I told them the three coaches that I've worked with in the past year. I said I worked with a LinkedIn coach to help me with the visibility. How do I do better storytelling on LinkedIn? I worked with an image coach to help me figure out my fashion for my new body size. I worked with an executive coach who's walking with me, sorry, a business coach who's walking with me to restructure my business. And so the name of the game is get help, invest in self. The best investment now is in your own learning, is in reading what the market is doing and shifting accordingly. Because a lot of us might be already feeling the pinch of it in our career, and maybe making excuses for why you don't have time to learn what you may need to learn in order to keep being relevant as things shift. So I don't say this as someone who has arrived, but I am saying I have left the station. And I invite you to leave the station too, because these three shifts, I know they hit one or all for you, right? Let me know in the chat box which of these three shifts is closest to home for you. Is it the confidence shift? Is it the invisibility shift? Which one is it? You need a new room, like you just need to be in more strategic spaces than you currently are. What is it for you? Because the truth is, if you don't acknowledge the gap, you can't fill it. And you might be trying to fill it with what will never solve your problem. So that brings me to why I'm so passionate about the Standout Women's Leadership Program, so passionate about the room that we create for these types of elevated conversation. I am passionate about equipping women with the tools, strategies, and networks that will help you win. I was on a call with a member of our first cohort of the Standout Women's Leadership Program yesterday, and she said, Yawa, I was trying to get from her a sense of, I check in regularly on our standout ladies. And she said, Yawa, you built my confidence. She won an award in her organization. She's now on the senior management team for the country. She's in a very strategic role. And she said, you're the one who made me build my confidence. And it just was heartwarming to me. But these kinds of environments where we have real conversation, learn real skills and strategies, and become a support system to ourselves is the reason why I love what I do. Because without it, without being supported, I wouldn't be here right now. So this is our plan for 2026. Our theme is Reach for Change, and we've got our residential mastermind program coming up in Ghana, March 20th to the 22nd. We've got our residential program happening also in Kenya, April 23rd to 26th. And I want you to understand something. This is not a conference. It is not motivation, inspiration, cheerleading, rah, rah, rah. It's not generic. It's a bespoke experience for those of you who recognize these three gaps and are ready to make these three shifts. And the standout experience launched for the first time in 2014. So this is the 11th year, if my math is correct, of doing this work. And we've been doing this work with women all over Africa and for some companies on a bespoke basis. So I trust it because I've seen the journey that women have taken and the real success and transformation that's come out of them as a result of this experience. And it's a full program. We'd love to share with you the full brochure, but just to give you a snapshot of what the program entails, it's a 10-module program delivered, on a hybrid experience for you. And we just feel really passionate about really, really finding those women who know they're made for more or are living under the fullness of their potential and working with them to stand out, as the name suggests. I don't think there's a more important time for us as women to be prepared for these shifts that are required because of the time we're in. And I know a lot of us spend a lot of time feeling sorry for ourselves or you know, pity because of what we've been through. And I want to say this is a time to own your story, but keep doing it anyway. This is a time to take up the Bible has a phrase, take up your cross and just follow on the path of your vision. And the strategies that I've learned through the coaching experiences I've had, I bring to bear in how we structure and deliver our standout women's leadership experience. We also work with very, very well experienced coaches, transformation coaches, psychologists, people who understand the journey because they've been on it too and have helped and held the hands of others. So I feel really, really excited about this year's experience. On the screen now are the dates for each of the various components happening in Ghana and in Kenya. So please, we will follow up with you via email with the full program for your consideration. And I really want you to know that this is an investment. We go through great lengths to make it a pleasurable experience that allows you to detach from your day to day and really dig deep. And so, whether you're joining us for the day-long experience in Accra, which is the Executive Women Leaders Breakfast, or the day-long experience in Kenya, which is the Standout Women's Leadership Experience, or if you're doing the full residential journey with us, there's something that's for everybody. Do one or both of these. And I think it'll go a long way to help you close these gaps that we've talked about in today's session. So, in closing, I really want to remind you that your destiny is decided by decisions. Your destiny is decided by decisions. And I hope that you will decide to invest in yourself and to really do the work that's necessary, the heart work that's necessary to build new networks, be in the right rooms, own your visibility, and close that gap that lacks confidence so that you can win. And I look forward to journeying with you. Paps and I look forward to journeying with those of you in in Kenya. And I know Frimpoma and perhaps Sika might be on the call tonight. We will be journeying with those of you here in Accra. But I will stop here and we will open up the floor for some Q&A and some reactions to all that I've shared tonight. But I hope this has been such a blessing to you. My goal is to just continue to offer these insights that I think can transform and jolt you into action. Because the truth is, some of us are sleepwalking, we're in autopilot, and it's time to start reaching for the bigger, better, bolder, braver version of ourselves. And I look forward to be a midwife with you as you do. So thank you. So perhaps I'll hand back over to you to moderate our Q&A session. Thank you all for the opportunity to share these insights tonight.
All right, so I can see we have one question from Joy Getao, and she's asking, what are the hybrid options for those who can travel in? So Joy, does it mean you're in another country? So you're not in Kenya, you're not in Ghana? And so you're asking about the
Yes.
hybrid options. Okay, Yawa, are you able to speak into that?
Yes, I will. We do have like pre-recorded sessions. We're not doing live Zoom sessions within the program beyond these leadership labs that you're on right now. But we do have some of the sessions that are pre-recorded that we can give you access to through our Elevate platform. So we'll share information about that after the sign-up periods for the actual programs ends. So for those who may not be able to travel or able to, clear their schedules for any of the in-person commitments, we'll share with you information on how you can access some of these pre-recorded sessions or sign up for one-on-one coaching, should that be of interest to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yawa. And Joy, also to just add on what Yawa has shared, we are also planning to have an exclusive virtual event next month that will be in March in build up to that. And of course, if you sign up for the whole experience, including the executive coaching events that we've lined up for you in April, then you have access to everything else. And so it's possible to also sign up on the virtual event we shall be having. It will be exclusive, a virtual event. And of course, we will also be having a bit of an experiential edge on it, including breakout rooms to just be able to really debrief. So we also invite you to that. But we encourage you to sign up for the full end, especially the ones who are able to make sure you will be signing up for the retreat and the whole package. And then now you come along on all these other areas. I want
Oh,
to.
yeah, I'd love to be there, but we won't be in the country at that time. Thank you so much.
You're likely to be in the country in April?
Oh, no, I said I would love to attend. I would have attended physically, but it's within the school year. I'll be unable to attend.
Oh, okay, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, but we'll keep you updated because we'll still be having other events and then you'll just see what works for you. Yeah, but we'll keep you updated. Just stay in the networks and stay around. Yeah, but those of us who are around, you're in Kenya, and of course, Yawa has also mentioned the events happening in Ghana. And then the Ghanaians will also be coming to Kenya for the executive retreat that we shall be having, the residential event. And so we invite you, if it is within your reach, plan to come, plan to show up. And thank you, Yawa, for that powerful call to action for all of us. And Yawa has already shared with us what it looks like and what we are looking forward to. I don't know whether we have more questions or any insights or any feedback even for tonight. And before we even go to the Q&A, can you share a feedback and response on one thing you're taking home from tonight's conversation? So from everything Yawa has shared, what is your take home? What is something powerful that has just been awakened in you tonight? What is that one statement that you're feeling that, oh, I can actually ride in this in the long haul? And so let's share on the chat as well. What is your take home from tonight's session? And of course, if you have a question, please share on the chat. I'll be looking. Yes, the recording will be available. There is Joanne. No, let me just see the name correctly. Nana. Yeah, Nana. We will definitely be sharing the recording to all our contact lists that signed up for this event. And then Faith, what practical steps can I take to intentionally position myself in rooms where my values, skills, and voice are needed instead of just being present in spaces that look impressive? Yeah, what that is for you. How can she show up practically in the spaces, intentional, and of course, intentionally position herself in rooms where her values, skills, and voice are needed instead of just being present in spaces that look impressive? Yeah, go for it, your work.
Thank you. That's such a great question. A few practical things that I recommend. Number one, I would encourage you to sit with self first, sit with yourself first, and consider what am I called to? What makes me tick? Who do I want to be? Who do I feel called to be? For those of you for whom faith plays a big role in your decision making, you might make it a prayer point as well. I prescribe a process for those of you who are faith, like Christian faith inclined. There's a book called Two Chairs that I really like. And the activity is this. It's based on this activity. You can get the book, but the activity is simple, which is you take two chairs and you sit one opposite the other and assume God is sitting in that other chair, right? And you're talking to God about you. And the prayer that I take from that is like, God, show me to me. I really honestly believe that all of us, it's encoded in our DNA what we're meant to do with life. And our job is to go to Creator, go to God, our Creator, and ask for insight. And that insight may show up as like a intention, or an inclination towards something or a curiosity about something. But to brainwash, I think all of our brains need washing first and foremost before you can really show up in wholeness. So I would do the first step of like envisioning, like what do I see for my future? Am I even sensing that I'm in the right space or place? And it's possible for two things to be equally true. Like I don't think this is where I'm meant to be, but I am planning towards an exit or walking in the direction of that. And then in the meantime, you're exploring like where can I create or add value where I am. So for example, I remember being at university and a simple thing like our front office staff needing to go and pick up her 4-year-old son from daycare and begged me that could I please sit at her desk and take the calls. And she sat down and taught me how to answer calls and taught me how to pick up the phone and transfer the calls. And for the 2 or 3 hours a day that I would sit at that desk and do that, a new world was open to me of like how to be professional, how to do business. I left with like a maturity that was beyond my years because, this is someone that I took an interest in. She took an interest in me, and that one ask unlocked something, right? It built relationships with people, and she taught me customer service without meaning to teach me customer service, right? So I'm very thoughtful about experiences, very thoughtful about how we communicate with people and how I try to communicate with people. And I trace it back to that random, it sounded like a random ask. So sometimes vision requires you to recognize pattern. Like, what is the thing that I feel most alive about? What is the thing that I feel most impactful when I do? And then you now look at the space you're in and examine what value can I add here? I think there's no greater waste of time than being in a place where you don't add value anymore. A lot of friends of mine were very shocked when I stepped off the board of a very prestigious organization here in Ghana. And they said, why? And I said, this organization is doing very well. I don't think I'm adding value. And I don't need the ego boost. Back in the day, you want the ego boost that you're associated or affiliated to this, but I honestly don't see my value add. So I think it's actually not in my interest to be there. And I felt strongly like there's this up and coming organization, and I think I can add value here. And so when they asked me to join their board, in fact, I started adding value to them, and then they came to ask me to join their board. Do you get what I'm saying? So if you're looking for how to create visibility, I think you're asking the wrong question. I think you need to first introspect and then look at how do you create value, and don't be afraid to walk away from spaces where you are not a value add, because there's no greater waste of time that you were just there. Have you ever been to like a high school reunion, an old students reunion program? And then people are asking, have you heard of so and so, so and so? Have you, and like, who is that? Everyone is struggling to even remember who that person was because that person made no mark. Everyone's like, they have to like go open a book and show you a picture before you even remember that they existed. That shouldn't be you, especially not in this day. You need to be in places where clearly there's a value add. Like how, and that's why I meant that for many of us, it's the gap number two strategy. Strategy is built on gap identification. Do you see patterns? Do you see gaps? And is this the gap that you can uniquely fill? Can you build a skill set around filling a gap as opposed to everyone's doing law, so I'm going to do law, or everyone's doing this, so I'm going to do this? Because when you pattern recognize, you're able to actually step back first before you step forward. So that's the practical stuff I'd invite you to do. Do your two chairs exercise. Contemplate, what am I really called to? What do I really, and hold the tension of what you sense not being what your current reality is, and be open to just everywhere you go, do some good. And I think that that was the Jesus strategy. There's this Bible verse. Someone can find it and put it in the chat box if you're interested. But there's this Bible verse that says that he went around doing good. Like on a certain level, he didn't overcomplicate his mission. Like everywhere he went, he was doing good. Like, can I do some good here? And if not, like, don't try to exist in places where you can't do good. And you'll find that actually I feel like I'm in my element when I do this. So like, for example, this stuff, this master class, this training, these coaching experience, I do not struggle with it. This is my element. I do it in a way that no one else will do it. And so it makes me fear less about competition and concentrate more on, am I on target with what I sense is in my coding, right? Because I do think on a cellular level, our genes, our body, our genome, the cells of our bodies have instruction about who we're supposed to be here. But I think we don't listen as much. And look, we pick up our phones daily and we get distracted by who we're seeing doing what. And then sometimes it's the overstimulation of what other people are doing that makes me feel like I'm left behind. But you've got to reaffirm to yourself, I know who I am. Sometimes I pull up, there's this red box in the corner of my office. I don't know if you can see it down here. This red box, I pulled it out the other day out of storage because it has my old journals in it. And sometimes you have to remind yourself who you are. Because I started the year feeling a bit shaky. I had had a loss of a loved one, and I was just like in this place where I'm like, God, what is happening? And I just felt like the thing to do was go back and remind myself who I am, right? So these are some of the strategies that I think are super practical but very high value, that you sit with you first. You learn how to map out. And I do not think we become our best selves by ourselves. I think God makes it that we need other people. And so, three categories of people that I invite all of us to consider is, who has done this before? Can I go and understudy them? I tell coaches, and I was doing these coaching of coaches around Ghana in the north, and I said, if you've never paid someone to coach you, I think you will struggle to get other people to pay you to coach them. I think there's this principle, like if you can go learn from others, humble yourselves to study from others, like learn what they do, how they do it, and have the humility to feel the pain of purchase. Like if you've never sent a wire transfer that hurt you, I think you will struggle to find other people to send a wire transfer to you that hurts them. And so there's something that I find about just find the money if it's necessary, find the time so that you can learn from people who can shorten the distance between you and your future success. And that's what a mentor or a coach can help you do. Like mentors are people who are the picture of your future now. And some of the mentors, I only know them through books, but I call them my mentors because these books, I read it and it's a front row seat to their life, their struggle, their issues. And so sometimes I sit and think, what would this person do if they were me? Would they be looking at this through the same lens that I'm looking at things? The second category is counsel. Life, lifes. And sometimes the stuff that happens to us is psycho draining, psychosomatic. It can lead to depression, and for me, the most hardest hit that I've received in my adult life is my eldest son being born with a rare genetic syndrome and just the trauma of that experience. And I was out here trying to be Holy Ghost super Christian about it at the beginning, but I had to recognize that I needed help. So I differentiate who a mentor is from who a counselor is, someone who's a licensed clinician who knows how to get into your head and help you emerge out of the depth of wallowing and self-pity and despair, because quite frankly, life will happen to us. You will lose a loved one. Maybe there's divorce or something unexpected that happens. And for me, that was, oh God, I might outlive my child. Oh God, like this can't be happening. It can't be happening to me. All the fire prayers I've been praying, all the seeds I've been sowing, like I was becoming psychotic and I needed to have the humility to get some help. A counselor that I was speaking on a regular basis to pour my pain, because not every relationship that you have in your life can withstand the pouring of pain. And so some of us were mad at our husbands because we're trying to pour our pain on them, but they weren't built for that. We're trying to pour our pain on our friends, and they're not built for that either. Like a friend will take your call once or twice and probably, but after a while, it's like, oh, I'm busy. I can't come anymore because misery, that vibe, that despair, nobody wants to be around that for too long. So you might also need to see, am I stagnating because I'm not getting the help that I need to manage my mental, emotional load? And that happens to a lot of us. And we feel like we can pray everything away. Some healing comes through community. I remember years ago, I went to a healing retreat. I cried for 3 days straight. And I got some resources. Some of those books are still on my shelf, and I still pick up these books sometimes when I'm feeling like a little anxious, a little, but without mind regulation, you can't make good decisions, and your decisions decide your destiny. So it matters. The your mental health, your physical well-being, all of that matters too. And so for some of us, we might need to just get some wellness coaching or a psychiatrist or psychologist who helps us master our mind. And then lastly, the third category of help that I prescribe is coaching. And a coach may not necessarily be in your particular line of business. They might not necessarily be wanting the same thing or, have a proof point of that thing, but knows how to get you strategically oriented to get from point A to point B. So, for example, the world's fastest man used to be Usain Bolt. And if you ever saw his coach, you'd be surprised. The man had a pot belly. The man would probably not be able to catch a bus if his life depended on it. But he was the one coaching Usain Bolt. And you think that that's strange. Coaching is not about the coach being what you want to be. The coach is your strategist. So some of you may need some career coaching. Like if I want to be CEO in 10 years, what do you recommend I do? And you do what they say. And they help you plot a plan. They help you find where you need to build visibility. Like there is a realm of help that's available that a lot of us don't quite tap into because every problem we take to the same people, our spouse, our friends, our religious community members. And this is not shade. This is me just saying, let me show you a more excellent way that we're surrounded by a cloud of witnesses. And I think our job is to find the witness with expertise in this area. And of course, I pray about the people that I get help from. Like I felt strongly like God was asking me to coach with the business coach that I'm working with. In fact, I had a couple of dreams about him and I felt like, oh God, do you know what the problem was? I didn't want to pay. I didn't want to pay the $10,000 that it cost to be part of his coaching community. I wanted to spend the money on other things, and some of you, that's the holdup. Your chokehold for your future is that you don't want to pay. You want everything to come to you for free. You don't want, you've seen the gaps, you recognize the patterns, you realize that it's time, but you choke when it comes to investing. And so those are the three categories that I would recommend as like practical things to do now. Find you a mentor, find you a coach, get psychological help if you've needed, do your two chairs, get internally inspired about what your future is. Don't be alarmed by the distance between where you are now and it, but just start creating value everywhere you are and self-evaluate. Every 12 weeks, I like to go off grid and just review. Let me look at my, I was doing a session earlier today, so my vision board is on my desk, but like I'm not even high tech about it. Like just a practical board with pictures that I've pinned up showing what I'm planning and focused on for the year. And every 12 weeks, just take the board, sit down quietly, pray and say, Lord, where am I on this? And like what are you inspiring me to focus on? And I tell you, it's just really important to be measuring because often what you measure doesn't grow. So maybe you're not growing because you're not accounting to yourself and measuring, you're not investing, you're not surrounding yourself with community. And if you would do those practical things, I think next year by this time, it'll be a whole different conversation. I hope that's helpful.
Wow, thanks, Yawa. And yes, that was very powerful. Hope Faith, you found that helpful. So I'm going to throw in the last two, and then we'll start landing this. So Monica is asking, where do you draw the lines between complacency and confidence as a leader? So that is the first question. And then the next one is by Eunice. Eunice is asking, how do you handle being misunderstood? Of course, she started by saying, thank you, Yawa, for sharing your light, sharing your light in your element with us this evening. How do you handle being misunderstood in the rooms you are transitioning from, knowing well they will see the vision later after the results rate?
Thank you.
So do I come up again?
Okay. Can you remind me the first question, the thin line between complacency and what?
Yeah, Monica is asking, you draw the line, where do you draw the line between complacency and confidence as a leader? So what is the line between complacency and confidence as a leader? And then the next one is by Eunice. How do you handle being misunderstood in the rooms you're transitioning from, knowing well they will see the vision later after the results wait?
Okay. Let me start with the second question. I'm looking on my phone because there's this book and I want to make sure I'm quoting it right. So there's a book called The Courage to be Disliked. Can you all write that down? It's called The Courage to be Disliked. And this book, I was on the road for about 2 weeks, traveling up north in Ghana, and I downloaded a lot of audiobooks. And this is a book I've read probably 3 times. This was my third listening, because for a lot of us, we want to be liked so badly that we cannot stand it when someone has some difficulty with how we operate, or and we expend so much energy trying to be liked that sometimes we just can't be great because we want to be seen as good. So I would encourage, you, when you have mentors in your life to run things by, it helps you see things from a different perspective. I don't always assume that I'm right about things, but I do like to talk to people, my coach, mentors, and say, can I bounce something off of you? This and this happened, and this is what I'm thinking. And oftentimes they'll look at it from a different point of view and say, ha, like the person I spoke to who said, why are you so honored to be meeting people? People should be honored to meet you. Like your post sounded desperate. Like you belong. Like you don't need validation from them. In fact, they need validation from you. That was a shift that came as a result of having a conversation. So if you're trying to not be misunderstood, stop trying that. you will be misunderstood because no one who does great things is ever fully understood. All of these billionaires in the world, everybody hates them, right? Because they're so misunderstood, right? So the path to greatness in any field, in any sphere, will be filled with being disliked or misunderstood or, and I think part of the job to do is to determine whose opinion is worth responding to, whose opinion is worth caring about. And especially as we're in a social media world, you might be crying and heartbroken over some random bot somewhere, not even a human being, a bot, an AI bot that is rage bait, has written a comment to just rage bait on something you said or did, right? So that likes and views and things and monetization will happen for someone's account. And you're out there crying because some bot or some random person who doesn't know you, doesn't know your background, doesn't know your history, doesn't know the sweat or the tears that you've cried is making you feel or less than you are. So I think it links to the first question, like the fine line between complacency and strength. Like, don't assume that you are the bomb.com. My daughter keeps telling me that no one says bomb.com anymore, whatever the Gen Z equivalent of that is. Like, if you think you are the best, that, you probably are misguided unless it's coming from the people that you serve. Like, don't make a mistake. Like, confidence isn't about having all the answers. Confidence is about knowing. Like, I assure my clients a couple of things that if I don't know, I will tell you. And if I don't know, I will find how to know, right? I'm constantly pursuing to better my craft, constantly pursuing ways. So I invest in other people's conferences. I go to things like I'm someone who hosts things. So I go to things all the time. I get ideas, I get inspiration, but I don't ever assume that the way I do women's leadership is the best way to do it. But I feel like I have a unique niche and a unique way. And I'm confident that it helps people that I will talk about it and offer it and keep going. This is year 16 and counting of the Leading Ladies Network. And, I look at and I'm inspired by what other people do, but I really try to stay in my lane. So I think confidence and being foolhardy or being delusional. The difference is this: confidence gives you an allowance to keep learning and growing and adapting, where foolhardy pretension is a trying to be and show um and trying to be what you're not. So it goes against this idea of wholeness. Now remember, in my definition of wholeness, I talked about pattern recognition and closing of gaps. And those three gaps are usually in three windows. And one is that visibility gap, one is that confidence gap, but the middle one is strategy. Like, you can't improve without tactic, and you can't create great and effective tactic without feedback. And so if you're someone who's demoralized by feedback that's not positive, I would fix that. That's where confidence can just come complacency. You think you are great. Nobody can say anything, and you're so fragile that you can't even take constructive feedback. That's where you're in a problem zone, because strategy and tactic thrives on feedback. And if you are making it impossible for people to feel like they can give you feedback, then you are probably hot air. That's the truth. So oftentimes there are some people who think they're amazing. And this is what happened to a company like Kodak. Do you remember Kodak? Like, our pictures, we had film and we used to take it to develop and all of that. When they saw these, instant digital cameras coming up, they were very boastful and proud about their traditional way of taking photos. And do you even know who they are now? You don't. They're out of business because they didn't keep the learning loop open. And that's what happens to a lot of us. And sometimes it happens because of a function of how our lives are set up socially. You leave the office, you're coming to work, you're cleaning noses, you're cooking dinner, you're washing dishes, you're doing stuff. And I am learning to integrate learning into my day. Like I'm always podcasting something. I have a plan of what like all of the things that I'm curious about. And I'm in the kitchen, I'm plugged into something. And that's why I think technology is our equalizer in many ways. Like what you don't know, you can know. And is there a class you can take? Is there someone, there's this coach who I've been following in the US. She came to do something in Ghana. I paid. I bought a VIP ticket and went to her event. And I was taking voracious notes, not just about what she was saying, but about how she performed, about how she delivered. And I said, okay, wow, this was interesting. This was insightful. But I could have made an excuse that I have to go pick up my kids. I have to be home by this time. Some of us run home as if our home will get missing if we don't get there in time. And I don't mean to shade you, but this is a moment. If you're called outside to be more than just wife and mother, you really have to prioritize your growth. You really have to think about, when was the last time I invested in something that stimulated my thinking, that improved I teach a class called Polish Professionalism. But I met up the other day with a woman I trained at the Protocol School of Washington, and she trained at the British Protocol School. I said, let's work together. I want to see what I can learn from you. Like British Protocol, I know American, like let's learn, let's collaborate. Because the truth is, those who will win in this moment understand that be secure in what you know, but don't close your mind to learning new things. That's where the confidence becomes an arrogance. And before you know it, they give you a pink slip. We regret to inform you, you no longer work here because you're inflexible. You're not adaptable. Things are changing all the time. So companies are changing all the time. And a lot of the jobs that are being eroded are our jobs, admin jobs, compliance jobs, jobs that, we worked so hard and thought we would have a retirement in. And that's why I really feel passionate about this year's theme for standout, which is reach for change. Like reaching, have you ever tried to get something on like the top shelf of a staircase or a top shelf of something? You have to get on your tippy toes and reach. Like that's what we mean with this year's theme. Like a lot of us will be uncomfortable for a moment, have to sit in some discomfort for a bit to close the gaps that are eroding our ability to thrive in this new world without us knowing. So thank you for the question. I hope that was helpful.
Absolutely. Thanks, Yawa. And so, ladies, seems like we are starting to land the evening, and it's 9:32. Thank you for your patience. I don't know whether Yawa would want to give any closing remarks and a call to action. But before that, I want us to celebrate one amazing lady, and that is Patricia, who has been just helping us to put this together. And probably you've heard from her. She is the admin for LLN, that is the Leading Ladies Network. Let's just celebrate her. Of course, you'll be hearing more from her, even going forward about the next steps and the next events that are coming up. Yeah, we celebrate Patricia. I know she's in the room and she's really worked hard to put this webinar together. And of course, she's also steering us towards the events that are coming up. Yeah, all those flowers for Patricia. We celebrate you. And so, Yawa, any closing remarks and call to action? And then I don't know whether you want to pray or how you want to land this. But it was such a privilege, such an honor. I'm just getting feedback from some of my personal friends and previous clients who are also here tonight at how amazing this is. And we are definitely looking forward to see you sign up for the consecutive events. Joy Getao has already booked herself in for all the April sessions. This is the heart of it.
Wow.
Joy, we can't wait to be there. So she said, put me on the list for the April sessions, not just one of them, but all of them. And Joy will definitely see it. This
Awesome.
is the year of transformation.
Congratulations.
Reaching for change.
Congratulations. I'm proud of everyone who's deciding to reach for change tonight. I'm also proud of perhaps the work that you do and have championed over the years. And in closing, I really just want to invite each of you to do that introspection. That where am I at and what gap might I need to close if I will become whole again? And I do want to pray for you if you're okay with that. I do just want to Just for me, prayer is such an act of love. It's me calling out from a spirit of compassion that good will come your way. So I just really want to lift you up. And I pray to Jesus because he's who I believe in. But if you believe in something else, hold this as my good intention towards you. So, Father, Lord, I really want to thank you for every woman who's on the Leadership Lab tonight. We're so grateful for their life and their decisions that lie ahead of them. And we know that decisions are really what decide our destiny. So, in the name of Jesus, I pray for grace for each person who feels like they're shouldering things that are uncomfortable or unbearable, that you will show them to them. May God show you to you, is my prayer. May your heart be so filled with a knowing about who you are and what you're called to, and may a spirit of courage blanket you so that you'll make the choices that are necessary. The choice to be in the right rooms, the choice to discontinue some relationships, the choice to live up to the version of you that you know is inside that others may despise. May you give us the courage to be disliked. That when people don't like the new version of us that's emerging, that won't discourage us from going all in to become and to fulfill all that you've laid ahead of us to become and fulfill. So, Father, Lord, I also commit all of our upcoming events, the uh, March 20 to 22nd residential leadership program for the women leaders happening here in Ghana. We commit the March 31st breakfast event happening in Ghana. We commit the April 18th full day leadership experience happening in Nairobi. We commit the full 3 day immersive happening in Navaisha on April 23rd to 26th to you. And we pray that every woman from every corner of this world, wherever she is, who needs to be there, will find her steps there, and that we will overcome the inhibition to pay, the inhibition to register, the inhibition to see ourselves as worthy of this type of investment, and that we will come and be served. We commit all of our facilitators and partners and friends that are making this work possible, that as we work, that Lord, everything in our life that is out of order will come into order because of the time, effort, commitment, and service we give to this vision. We believe that the Standout Women's Leadership Program, the experience, all of it was born of you. And your word says that whatever was born of God overcomes the world. So we declare by our faith in Jesus Christ that this vision prevails and it wins, and everyone connected to it will become who you've called them to be. In Jesus' name, amen and amen. God bless you, ladies. Thank you again for joining, and we cannot wait to see you at all of our upcoming Standout Women's Leadership events.
All right. Good night, ladies. Yeah, we will definitely be sending out an email tomorrow with a link to sign up to all these events. And of course, we will definitely keep in touch actively to just keep on journeying together. But to look forward to an amazing experience that we've curated for you. And like Yawa said, this is not a conference. It's not a seminar. It's actually an immersive experience where you get to process things with each other and together in a room. So expect a very intimate event. We only have 15 slots, by the way. Yeah, like we're saying, this is not a conference. We're not trying to bring 100 people into the room. From Kenya, we are looking for 15 women who are ready for the next level of their lives and leadership. And we are looking forward to take you through this journey and this process. And I'm so sure this will be one of the most impactful things that will happen in your leadership journey and even in your personal life. You know, this elevation and this experience has been curated to impact every area of your life. And so come expecting an overhaul. It's not just about your office, it's also on your backyard. And Yawa has shared how it's been an impactful journey in terms of the investment she's bringing on the table, along with the other executive coaches that will be coming along. And so come expecting growth transformation, you know, a total overhaul of who we are supposed to be. And I really love those words on the first slide. You know, it's not just about the expectation, but actually the realization of it. And so we look forward to see you next month. We will still invite you to another curated event like this one. And of course, it will also be for the ones who've already signed up. So make sure even as you sign up, you make in a deposit to just say, you know what, I'm faithing this as well. You know, you may not have the whole amount, but take a step. And then we will keep you updated on all the other things that are coming up. We can see all your asantes and God bless and thank you so much on the chat. Yeah, we appreciate you as well. Thank you so much for also showing up tonight. And this is the first step of reaching for change. And so we'll see you next month. We will be on your email tomorrow so that I can give you the next steps. Good night.
Good night,
Bye.
everyone. Good night.